As we were working on this report, the time frame was, I believe we started sometime in October 2010, and when the report was submitted to the Committee of Ministers, it was May 2011. And in the course of that time, in fact, a number of rather, important European leaders, such as French President Nicolas Sarkozy, German Chancellor of Germany Angela Merkel, and then British Prime Minister David Cameron, all referred to the problems of multiculturalism. In fact, saying things like it has failed, and so it was very interesting that this happened as we were working on this report. So there is that perception in Europe that multiculturalism has failed on the part of leaders, apparently, as they're also expressing it very clearly. We also had to really think about this notion of multiculturalism along this process. And we realized that although we had nothing against the notion of multiculturalism, we realized that it has over time acquired a pejorative meaning. It has acquired a negative meaning, basically referring to parallel societies, societies that are different from one another, and they live, in the same territory without really touching each other. This is what it has acquired. This is the meaning it has acquired. So that's one of the reasons why we avoided that notion. So much has been said about multiculturalism that we thought it is important to come up with this new notion that underlines living together. And I believe our subtitle is also very important because, we basically say, combining diversity and freedom. Because, the two, diversity and freedom, they basically looked as if they were mutually exclusive in some way, and we wanted to underline that they're together, and they could be done together, and it could be done. There are now forms of citizenship that such as city citizenship. People who do not have the national identity of the nation state in which they live. Let's say in Netherlands. They can actually acquire city citizenship after staying there for a number of years, even if they are not from countries that are members of the European Union. There is such a thing. Or that, of course, the Treaty of the European Union made it possible now for residents, from EU member countries to vote in local and regional elections. So demos is becoming bigger. We are in an era in which we don't assume that demos is just made up of people who are members of the national community, right? With, of course, migrations and all that. Some of these currents of migration were in fact encouraged by governments through bilateral agreements. So here we are in an era where the most challenging question is then to find ways of living together. The reasons for the problem was not that there were these cultural differences, but that they were not managed well was the problem. So the problem in the report is really defined as a political problem, not a cultural problem stemming from religious differences or ethnic differences or other differences, but a political problem. So what we really see is definitely rising intolerance against migrant groups, against Muslims, against Roma, clearly. We were able to see that very clearly in various meetings, because we also talked with many representatives of civil society organizations. There is discrimination, still ongoing discrimination against the Jews, I think. So that's why we wanted to underline all of these groups in the report that face discrimination. But rising intolerance is a very, clearly observable thing in Europe right now. Politics, of course, is such a thing that there is this abuse of, I think, in the discourse of national identity, in a way, dwelling on the importance of that and separating, the national identity from all the others. A lot of politicians really abuse that discourse. And, in that way, they have an impact on the society. Whereas in the society, when you really go deeper into the daily lives of people, they're actually quite okay living together, really. I mean, the ability to live together is there, really, in a very major way. So then the important thing is to carry that reality into the political realm, really, and making it possible. Now, the notion Islamophobia is a bit, I think, too general. It doesn't really cover the ground that well, perhaps, and that's what we did in the report, using the notion anti-Muslim. It makes more sense because this is not an issue of fearing Islam. This is just being against it, really. Being discriminatory towards Islam. So it shouldn't be confused with the fear. I mean, what does fear really tell us? It's something that is probably pumped in movies and in television by the discourses of some political party leaders, but fear, what is more important than fear, is discrimination, really. I mean, there are political actors who abuse this language of hatred and language of fear and prejudices, So there's the dark cloud of politics of fear and hatred over Europe that's harming, the values that Europe had. So again, coming back to this, that's why I thought it was very interesting that Europe, through this report, I see this report as an effort to breathe life into European values. This report is an effort to breathe life into European values. That's how I would like to really summarize it. This is not the era of, glorifying the notion of nation, like, ethnos, right? I mean, because the reality is, there are a mixed group of people living in all these societies. So if you deny citizenship to them, you are denying quite basic rights, really. So that's one of the recommendations, very concrete recommendation, I think. And we also made other recommendations, like, again, on the issue of freedom of expression. We thought the standard should be quite high. And on the issue of equality of men and women, for instance, that no community, should be able to really keep women away from the right to have education, really, right? Or keep women from doing things that they. So that's why the report is titled Combining Diversity and Freedom. I think there should be one law, but a flexible one, really, flexing to basically address the differences in the society. But if we go in the direction of multicultural jurisdictions, then what you have is really this pejorative multiculturalism, societies that are separate and do not touch one another. Whereas what we want is not that. What we want is to live together, really. That's why I find this report important, because that's what we underline in this report.